Back here live at the Nexon Arena for more of Jin Air's SSL Series 2017. This is Premier. We're here in the second round of playoffs, and we're in the midst of a best-of-5 between these two Zergs. It's ByuL and Solar going head-to-head, and they're all tied up at 1.
That is right. So game number 3, going to put one of these two on match point as we head into another 2-player map on Abyssal Reef. So a much larger 2-player map than Overgrowth, of course. Longer rush distance. This may be the first time where we see both players go pool first, take a safer hatchery, and we just go into the mid-game with no strings attached. Could be the opposite, though. I mean, these two are very much in each other's minds right now. Momentum is kind of reset here, but I feel like with that really failed attack by ByuL, it could get into his mind a little bit. He has shown the weakness of crumbling in high-stakes matches, semifinals and finals both.
Yeah, I really hope he can pull it together here in a sense. Keep it together, I should say, because he hasn't really lost it too much just yet, but definitely can still win the series. We're going into kind of a best-of-3 now that they're tied at 1-1. Let's jump into game number 3 right now on Abyssal Reef. Here we go again. Down in the bottom right, the red Zerg, it is ByuL.
And his opponent to the top left, in blue, it is Solar, the Splice Zerg. So, defending champion, the ex-Samsung player against now teamless, once on CJ Entis ByuL. Unfortunate how far that team has fallen, of course, in the end of Pro League, it was one of the weaker teams, and also in LCK, actually no longer in LCK, I should say, one of the most storied teams in Brood War, and had a decent amount of records, of course, going into StarCraft 2. But ByuL, you know, he and CJ, I feel like they collapsed together. ByuL had that 2 failed back-to-back finals. His teammate, actually, Hero, took the one at SSL for Season 3 of 2015. He lost the GSL the next day. And, you know, now he's had one more opportunity to win a GSL, failed that again. So he's looking for his second SSL finals, whereas Solar is the defending. So when Samsung went away, Solar was the last Samsung champion. The most recent before that was Jongbi, of course. When Samsung went away, Solar immediately was picked up by this organization, Splice. It's the personal sponsorship. Works really closely, of course, with now his teammates Stats and TY. And it seems like he has this kind of trinity of each. Splice has 3 players, one of each race. He's got good practice partners still, and he seems to be very much in form. ByuL, I feel like, really shocked everyone this season, and by season I mean like this summer. Like, he did well in GSL, better than people expected. Did fail in his group test recently, but in the first group stage he looked really strong. And he dominated in the round robin stage of the SSL Premier. So the backstories of these two players definitely coming from different backgrounds. They're both Zergs, and Solar is a multi-time champion.
ByuL, he's looking for that himself, as you were talking about. He needs to get through Solar first, though, and I feel like either of these players are going to have a really hard time against Innovation. We talked a little bit about before how ByuL would probably be the player that has a better chance up against Innovation in that best-of-7, but again, he's got to get there. And looking at the build from ByuL, he's going exactly what you said, very safe. He goes into gas pool. He's getting a safe baneling nest. He's making a lot of lings, so he does have the opportunity to go for an attack as well. Whereas Solar, and actually, as I say that, tons of lings coming out of ByuL, so not really all that safe after all.
Well, the appearance of a safe build into a follow-up attack. Now, for Solar, he's actually going to go into his own timing. He hides the Evo Chamber. He's going to go into the +1 Roach War. And the problem is that if he gets hit by this speed baneling attack without his own baneling nest, and the Lings stream in against a small Roach count, the Lings will surround and crush the Roaches. And here we go. He's going to see this for the first time just now. So he definitely doesn't want to make the massive Roach counter. If he does, he's going to have to protect it. He needs to make sure that they're in good position, but no banelings. He needs to evacuate the drones.
He's only going to have 6 Roaches. This is interesting. He needs to cover that ramp. Actually going to pull 3 drones as sacrificial lambs in the front.
Yeah, he's going to have to use hold position micro as the Lings will not prioritize them as they're not combat units. But now that they're moved away, they come out. Now Roach is popping out. He wants to surround and kill these. This is going to buy us a little bit more time for Solar. Nice positioning here in between the mineral lines and the geyser, but here come the Queens. They are picked off, and those Banes are trying to get in the main base. Good wall here, though, by Solar, but he may lose the Roaches as a result. They're actually getting quite low.
Really fantastic wall there. Very, very low Roaches. Only more and more Lings streaming across the map, but this is a pretty close hold here. Solar definitely still has an opportunity. 5 more Roaches on the way, but the rest of the Roaches that were here are all taken out, and the ones that pop out here can easily be surrounded.
The key for Roaches, of course, are to make sure that you have enough of them to defend where they don't get surrounded. Right now he has to use drones because he needs to protect these expensive units, these tanky units that are in such small number with slow attack speed. They're just being overwhelmed by the Lings. He can never get a large group of Roaches together. He never hits that critical mass, and he's just losing bleeding Roaches off hemorrhaging units over and over again here.
And there's so many Lings now in the natural base of Solar from ByuL. It looks like he may have broken the back of Solar already. So many Lings here. It's going to take a miracle for Solar to hold on. He's doesn't really have that strong of an economy anymore, just mining off of one base.
Another Roach gets surrounded here too. GG, ByuL. You know, he said in the interview, he was humble. He said, ZVZ is a lot about 2 things, your condition on the day and also a little bit of luck. And I feel like in this game, he made his own luck. He went for an aggressive strategy, hit it well, and it basically did just happen to very directly counter what Solar was doing. Yeah. No Baneling nest, a small amount of Roaches. He tried to get them all together, but the micro was just too good from ByuL. Roaches, if you get 6 or 7 of them there and you can't get the surround on them, then you hold off the push. But if you have 3 or 4 and they get surrounded, the Queens get surrounded, and they just keep coming out one by one. Every time they spawn, they get surrounded to go do 2 attacks and then die.
Yeah, at first when I saw the builds, I was like, oh, Solar's going greedy and ByuL's playing safe. This is looking good for Solar, but actually, it seemed like it was reverse psychology, that ByuL actually read that Solar was going to go greedy and then went to extremely aggressive and caught him off guard. Even the addition of the Banelings, you know, usually pretty good against the Lings, but you have to group up those Roaches to stop them from getting surrounded, as you were talking about. Guys, we're going to jump into Newkirk Precinct now for game number 4 between ByuL and Solar. Go down in the bottom left. The red Zerg, a very aggressive build, 2 times in a row. Worked in the last game. It is ByuL.
His opponent now to the bottom right in blue. It is Solar. Tournament life on the line. But he's been in this position before. In the grand finals against Dark, he was down in the series. He was able to fight his way back to that game 7. He put it all on the line with an all-in. As you said earlier, that speedling attack on a 4-player map and was able to take the win. Very risky play, but Solar's not easily phased when the pressure is on. As mentioned before, he's won 3 of his titles in this matchup when everything was on the line on one series. So this is going to be mirror builds this time. For the first time tonight, we're going to have the exact same opening for both players.
This is always fun. I mean, this is what creates games of ZVZ that actually go long, where we get to see these players try to hit specific timings, get to see their Roach Micro against Roach Micro. And we saw that between these 2 when they played the best of 3 and when they went together on Overgrowth, actually. ByuL tried to hit a +1 speed timing with the Roaches, and it almost worked, but Solar held on for like 5+ minutes. It was really intense. And, you know, eventual back and forths, and eventually ByuL did win because he was in part able to deny the burrow and burrow movement harassment from Solar, and Solar just bleeded too many units, and ByuL eventually took the win. But we'll see if it does get to it here on Newkirk Precinct. This map, you know, if you're trying to attack at the 3rd base, definitely some good timings are available to you, but if you don't hit those timings, generally it tends to go pretty late.
Yeah, there's also... this is a map where if ByuL wants to go for Mutalisk again, I feel like this is a good opportunity for him. You can bounce between the 3 bases. If you can hide that tech, you can harass kind of a lot of different spaces. and then go into, the transition later, because it's hard to counterattack here. The map is so large. The rush distance, even though it looks on paper to be quite short, because you have to go the long route away because of the wall-offs there. It does take a long time to get across the map. You can have a nice defensive setup at your third base, or your natural if you're going hyper early mutas. So I'm not saying that's what we're going to see, but I am saying that this is a map where there's a high chance that ByuL will pull this off, depending on how this mid-game shakes out. So, I mean, we are still pretty much dead even. You can draw a line of symmetry across these builds on the production tab, because they're doing the exact same thing. Same 2 lings. We're going to probably see ByuL add those additional drones as well in just a second once his larva pops. Okay, lings come in here and scout.
They almost get that 1 drone.
Look at the timing of the metabolic boost. I mean, within milliseconds.
That is the way it goes. I mean, Solar did get the slightly faster Baneling nest, but not going to matter because they're not trying to hit any specific aggressive timings. But Solar will be the first to get that lair up here. Maybe in part because he did kill the 2 lings that ByuL tried to kill a drone with, so he's like, okay, I know you have no opportunity to really scout me here as long as I do protect my ramp, and so I'm going to squeak out that lair pretty early on.
Yeah, and so far, I mean, all that ByuL has been able to do during this window of time is create a large amount of drones. He's actually creating 8 drones right now, so we'll take a significant drone lead for just a moment. I mean, they're dead even in everything else. The question is, what is he planning? He wants to figure out what is being done now. He will see this lair, but he doesn't know how far along it is. He might have thought that it was started just a second ago, like his is being added now. He wants to see it complete, but he actually doesn't stick around to do so. If he actually stuck around for just a few more seconds, he would have seen it complete, which would have given him a lot more information. There's a difference between a morphing lair that's just started, like ByuL's, and a morphing lair that's 99% done is nothing in terms of its appearance outwardly. So a little bit unfortunate here, and it's going to be Solar, in fact, who goes for the mutas.
Yeah, Solar gets that out very fast. ByuL did see another gas be taken at the natural just before that ling died, so maybe he can, or I think I said Solar, but ByuL actually saw that at Solar's base, but maybe he can kind of guess that he is going for this. We don't see any Roach Warren from ByuL, so he might just have Muta versus Muta, but Solar will have that Spire way, way faster. And that definitely does matter for getting the mutas out on the map first, clearing out all the overlords a lot faster. There is that Spire from ByuL. Solar is going to, or rather ByuL is going to come into Solar's base and scout Solar's Spire as well.
I can try to get that confirmation. Here comes the Overseer to scout. So remember, these are the 2 things I talked about in Muta versus Muta. We talked about the difference between when you go Muta against something else, it's about being hidden. When you go Muta against Muta, there's 2 key factors: having the Muta count up first, and then having the better gas. In terms of gas right now, these 2 are almost dead even. There's about a 50 gas difference. That's advantage Solar right now. But he has the Mutalisk first, and he's going to have the first few to harass the gases, to minimize the gas mining of his opponent, and already even has the Carapace that he's going to do. He knows he has it faster, so he just wants to continue that advantage.
Yeah, definitely very important to get that upgrade. The other thing that ByuL is doing, he's committing to a couple more Banelings, so it seems like he wants to try to force Solar perhaps to use some of that larva towards lings, but as I say that, ByuL doesn't seem to want to get aggressive just yet. ByuL does have the earlier third base, which means that he can take the 5th and 6th gases a bit earlier, which is really the main thing. You were talking about the gas, definitely the most important thing in this Muta versus Muta fight. And actually no Carapace here for ByuL. He's just totally skipping it, choosing to get another, or rather an extra earlier Muta instead.
Obviously, when you have Muta versus, okay, so I get it now, but when you have Mutas versus Mutas fighting each other, the Mutalisk count is really important, but when you have Carapace, you can kind of cheat a little bit. Like if you're Muta or 2 down, sometimes you just win that fight, and then when you start to win it, you really win it when you have that advantage. So that's how important it is, and he knew he had that edge, so I respect Solar getting this, and I know that, remember also, ByuL knew he was behind, so getting the Mutalisk up first, trying to match that Mutalisk count before the Carapace, I think is also a reasonable choice, but either way, it's kind of lose-lose, because yeah, he's trying to catch up in Mutas, but he's still going to have that Carapace now behind. So in both respects, he's just 1 step behind Solar. He does have the gases up a little bit faster, but Solar now also has his gases. So we're at this really even game now, and I think the most important thing to do is to, as you just did on your observing PC, open the unit tab and just keep an eye on how many mutas are out at any given time and where are they, what are they being used for. Then the next step is, what's the transition point? We're going to see mass mutas all game long, Brood War style, or we're going to see someone drop an Infestation Pit, somebody drop a Roach Warren, and go to the next level.
Yeah. Well, right now it looks like Solar is 1 muta ahead. Just one, and he did have that earlier Carapace, so you can see he's looking to take the fight. Just like you were saying, both players should know that he will have the upgrade sooner. But very smart by ByuL to just sit back and say, okay, I'll give you the map. I know I cannot fight your muta count right now. It's always very risky to go for something like that. Whereas Solar, he's looking for the fight. So he's coming in, poking in, see what kind of damage he can get done. He wants to keep tabs on exactly how many mutas ByuL is making, because as you said, if either of these players are going to go for a transition, you know, even into Infestors or Hydras or something like that, it will be obvious because it takes a lot of gas to make that transition. So you can see it in the muta count. And that's exactly what ByuL, or rather Solar, is doing here.
The reasons why you see the Mutalisk being stacked up by both players, but much better by ByuL, in fact, is because there's two reasons. One is because you want to hide your Mutalisk count, so you could actually mislead your opponent to thinking you have less and then win the fight because of the DPS. The second one is that you want to maximize the damage done and reduce flying time. So stacks here, once again, better for ByuL, and it's no surprise, right? ByuL is the Mutalisk player. As I said earlier, his emblem is the Mutalisk itself, and he uses Mutalisk more than anyone else, especially in ZVT. So a risky decision by Solar to commit to the Mutalisk tech, but it's very map dependent. That's an extra edge here for ByuL, is he loves playing muta versus muta, and he's going to do exactly that. He was behind, obviously, at the beginning, but the lead that Solar has is kind of diminishing over time as we kind of reach this focal point where both players are almost at the exact same spot.
Solar chooses to get his 4th base earlier, and I'm kind of surprised that ByuL is delaying it. I mean, he is going to see that 4th base, and it just does cost the minerals, so it's not really a huge deal when it comes to making these very gas-heavy mutas, but do see him making a bunch of lings at the same time, so maybe he actually wants to come in here and force a fight, but...
Big commitment here by ByuL. It's going to cost him a few mutas. Doesn't get the hatchery either, only got that extractor. But here come the lings. So this is a 2-pronged attack. Ling's going to hit this 3rd base, and then the morphing 4th, he'll look to hit that with the mutas.
He's going into... Oh, he was thinking about going into the main. I thought those were Solar's mutas actually following the ling, which is always a mistake. Really good baitling hits there by Solar. Oh, and the fight has begun. ByuL does not have +1 air weapons here.
Okay, it's going to be a pretty close fight, but the advantage does come to with the upgrades here. You can see, even though he had the better arc there, this doesn't matter. And now he's going to lose every single muta. That might actually just be too much. That might be game over. This is going to be impossible to replace GG.
There it is.
So, oops. All it takes is one misstep. All it takes is one slip up. People call this matchup the knife fight matchup for a reason. You slip in a knife fight, man, you get gutted. You slip up your Mutalisk micro, or you hit the timing where you think you're going to be even on upgrades, but you're wrong, you're mistaken.
You get gutted because the ref stabs you in the back as punishment for doing that.
So, I mean, in this moment, perhaps he didn't click on the Mutalisk upgrades or thought he was significantly ahead in his upgrades or his positioning, because he had the mutas coming in from 2 angles there, so that minimalizes the glaive bounce damage he was going to take. But still, the point is, the big picture is the upgrades, as you said. That gives you just that extra little edge. I think they were about 1 muta apart in terms of Mutalisk count, and ByuL just wasn't able to identify that. So now we're going to Game 5. Both of these playoff matches have not disappointed.
Oh yeah, they've been very, very close. I think the ZVZ matchup here in playoffs has been a bit faster, as it usually is in ZVZ. Lots of cheese, lots of aggression. But guys, we are going to take a bit of a longer break, maybe about 4 or 5 minutes, and we'll be back with game number 5.